sit wherever you want. Good morning and welcome to Milwaukee. I'm Dennis Krause, and when I call on you, we ask that you please identify yourself and your media outlet. We are joined by Yale student athletes Azar Swain and Jalen Gabbidon. Questions, please. Yes. Thanks for waiting for the mic.
Steve McGargy, Associated Press. For each of you, I'm just wondering what y'all went through last year. What was your routine like with no basketball in the Ivy League, and what kept y'all there? I know a couple guys ended up transferring. What made y'all decide to stay at Yale and wait it out?
If you both could address that just one at a time, please.
I think what made me stay personally was Coach Jones. You know, I have a lot of trust and belief in Coach Jones, and he's done nothing but amazing things for me as a person since I've been at Yale. And so he's given me a great opportunity to go to one of the best institutions in the world. And so I thought it was just right that I took the year off to play one more year with him. And the second part of the question?
Yeah, something similar a little bit. I've said it before, but Yale and Coach Jones changed my life. So it really wasn't much thought as far as like preserving my eligibility. You know, Yale is where I want to be, where I started, and you know, I felt like with the year, how it ended my junior year, it felt a little bit like unfinished business. So it was good to be able to come back and, you know, give something to Yale.
Brian Newbert, goldenblack.com. For both of you guys, can you just speak to Purdue's size and what you've seen on film and what you expect to see in person and how you guys are preparing yourselves for that?
Yeah, I think it's a given. Everybody knows that they're big, you know, and they've been one of the top teams all year. So they've been on the national stage and in the limelight. You know, so their size isn't something that's been hidden or anything like that. You know, as far as us, you know, we're looking kind of inwards and, you know, making sure that, you know, the little things like toughness and physicality aren't going to lack, and, you know, we'll be ready to compete regardless of size.
Billy Witz with the New York Times. I was just wondering if you can describe where you were watching the game last night and your reaction when Paul made the winning bucket.
I was actually in the weight room doing some like late night recovery rehab work, and I was watching the game on the TV. And when it happened, I literally like screamed in the hotel. You know, it's funny seeing Paul, you know, have 26 on national TV. You know, we felt like he's an incredible player, obviously, and we thought we were going to, you know, have our run at March Madness together the last time we were at Yale. And so for him to, you know, come out here and win a game and be a key part of that for Notre Dame just brought me like a lot of joy for him.
Hey, J.R. Radcliffe from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Going back to last year, I'm curious the things that the coaching staff did to try to keep you guys engaged as a team. And I mean, were you able to watch the tournament without, I mean, you know, without hard feelings, you know, not being able to be out there yourselves?
Yeah, personally, I was able to watch the tournament. You know, it's almost like our time was coming. You know, we took the year off. We knew that we were going to come back reloaded and ready to go the next year. And so that was almost, you know, excitement for me. Like I'm getting ready to go back to this. You know, I'm ready to get back on that stage again. And during COVID, we had bi-weekly meetings as a team where we talked about, you know, social justice issues, whether it's COVID or it's, you know, Black Lives Matters or anything else that's happening in the world. Every other week we would have a meeting together. We'd watch a video, something along those lines, and discuss it as a team just to keep us connected and like keep us in touch with each other. And sometimes we'd have guest speakers, like we had Coach Stevens from the Celtics. We had some other guest speakers on who talked to us just about, you know, basketball and like in life in general. And so that was a really neat thing that we did.
Just following up on his question, the stuff you were able to do last year, how much did it help in terms of establishing chemistry and not being kind of rusty and having to reintroduce things when you came back this season?
Well, we were rusty, you know. At the beginning of the year, we've had nine new guys on our team and 10 guys returning. And so it was almost a 50-50 split between new guys and old guys. And so the rust was inevitable. I mean, we hadn't played with each other in a year, but obviously, like, this is probably the closest team I've ever been on in terms of off the court personalities. And so, being able to communicate with each other through Zoom and through, the past year has been really great for our chemistry. And obviously, as the season went on, that started to develop into on-court chemistry. And now you can see, we play like a team. We play very together, and that's what we pride ourselves on. And that's why we have a shot at any game we'll ever play. It's because of that.
Azar, can you describe, I guess, just is there a level of frustration amongst Ivy League athletes of just kind of the hoops that you have to jump through? If you're injured, you have to basically drop out of school to have a redshirt year, and just some of the things that went through. You guys watched everybody else play last year. I know it was the same thing, with baseball players in the spring. Is there a feeling of, or I guess, can you describe maybe just how you feel like an athlete's place is on an Ivy League campus?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have their own opinions, and obviously it varies by sport and things like that. But I mean, the Ivy League has a long history of tradition, and as far as for me personally, I never looked at it as like a against the Ivy League type of thing. Like, I understood the rules, when I came here, and obviously within COVID and changing times, like, it was a difficult time. Especially, I can't even imagine for like policymakers and all that type of stuff. The decisions that they've had to make over the year, even within the NCAA. I mean, obviously within a Ivy League campus, as an athlete, you're respected, and it's not really like an administration versus. I feel like I've seen a lot of takes on that versus the students, but. I mean, the rules are the rules, and it's way above my head, and with the COVID policies and the rules and stuff like that, I understood them, and I was gonna do whatever it took to be back at Yale, and that's what it was.
Will McCormack, Yale Daily News. Azar, you've broken a few program records already in your Yale career. You'll break a new one for career games played tomorrow. What does that mark mean, and how do you wrap your mind around 121 appearances?
Yeah, that's probably the coolest record I can kind of brag about, just because the time flies by. Like, I'm a veteran now. I'm the one with all the experience and stuff like that, and it really doesn't feel like that still. Obviously, I'm a leader in that sense in our team, but within me, I still feel like, an 18-year-old and with a lot of time left in my career here. But obviously, that's not the case. And, I'm just thankful to have stayed healthy and be able to have the opportunity to play in games from Coach Jones. I'm just grateful. It's a lot of things that need to come together for something like that to happen. And, yeah, I'm just grateful.
Going back to Paul Atkinson, how much do y'all still communicate with him, and did either of you kind of send a text or anything like that, or have you talked to him since that game last night?
Yeah, I sent him I woke up this morning, and obviously with last night, I understand how, he probably has a million people texting him, so, I shot him a text earlier this morning, just telling him I'm super proud of him, super happy for him. Kind of like Jalen said, we were all in this together, felt like we had a lot of things that we could have still accomplished together. And things happen, roads, things come to an end, and, just super, super proud of him, super happy he's able to shine in a moment like that, because it's been a long time coming for him.
Anything else for the student athletes?
I guess I'll ask you about kind of the what if game, and if he had stayed, what would this team be like?
Scary team.
I mean, it goes without saying, he was the Ivy League Player of the Year. So we bring back an Ivy League Player of the Year to, a team, that we have this year with all the freshmen who stepped up and things like that. I guess we'll never know.
All right, guys, thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
So we're joined now by Yale head coach James Jones. Questions, please.
Steve McGarvey, Associated Press. I was just wondering, your players had talked about what y'all did last year, having some guest speakers, that type of thing, in order to stay engaged, keep the chemistry going while they didn't play. How did you come up with that idea, and just what was it like as a coach to try to kind of prepare a team for a year from now when you couldn't play at all?
Well, as you can imagine, it was difficult being away from my guys and away from Yale and being connected personally and face-to-face. So just to try to keep them engaged, we thought it was a good idea to have some guest speakers come in from the NBA something that they would be interested and intrigued by. So we did that. We also did a lot of Zooms on equity and inclusion to try to keep us together and understanding each other was a big part of it. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and I thought it was helpful for us to have a voice together and have guys share and to learn from each other, and it was really good. It was a way of staying together, but we always had our eye on opportunity to play again. And I will tell you that our first practice in September, I will never forget, as long as I'm allowed to live, the smile on E.J. Jarvis's face when we had our first practice. The excitement that we had of getting back on the court and being able to do what we do. So it was tremendous, and you know, sometimes something has to be taken away from you for you to realize how much you enjoy it or miss it.
Brian Newberg from Boilermakers.com. Coach, I'm wondering if you could speak to the challenges of Purdue's size and what you're doing to prepare for that, and how different that is from what you saw during the season.
Well, you know, that's different from what everybody sees during the season. You know, who has a 7'4", 300-pound man on their team? Nobody, except for Purdue. So obviously, for us, it's going to be a challenge because we're a little bit smaller in size than a lot of teams. You know, we basically started 3-man Isaiah Kelly at the 5 because we had so many injuries this year. So we have to do it by committee. We have to get a little bit more from everybody. So we got to block out and chase the ball and do the best we can because, you know, they do have a size advantage against us.
Mike Carmen, Lafayette Journal and Courier. With that, how did you simulate Zach Edey's size? I assume if you had a 7'4" guy on campus, he'd be on your team. But how did you go about just replicating what he may bring to the game?
Well, we're ingenious. I went out and I got a dump truck and I brought it to practice and I put it in the middle of the floor and I tried to get the guys to move the dump truck with it in park. You can't simulate it. I mean, you know, you can talk as much as you can. You can't simulate it. What you can do is make sure your guys understand the importance of what their jobs are and what their jobs are and how to do their jobs. So we've gotten together and we worked hard about trying to squeeze the floor and make it tougher and holding your ground, doing your work early, understanding they run a lot of misdirection plays to try to get the ball inside to Edey, and everything he does is trying to get deep position at the basket. So we want to make sure that we can take that away as best as possible.
You know Jaden Ivey now from a couple of perspectives. What are your thoughts on him going into this game?
Yeah, Jaden and I were together with USA Basketball over the summer. We took a team to Latvia along with Caleb First, and he is probably one of the fastest human beings I've ever seen with a basketball going up and down the court. Tremendous talent. He'll be a lottery pick, and we just got to make sure that we try to slow him down as much as possible, and that's not an easy task, but because he's an outstanding talent.
Coach, just your history with Matt Painter. When did you first meet him, and what has he kind of meant to your career, and what have you kind of gleaned from him over the last several years?
Well, you know, I didn't really get a chance to know Matt well until this past year when the USA basketball trip. That he was on the committee for the I think he's the president of the committee for the U19 team. So we got a chance to talk basketball a little bit here, and I actually heard him speak at a clinic down in Florida years back when Billy Donovan was coaching down there. So, you know, he's obviously done a great job at Purdue. He did a marvelous offensive talent. They run great offense. So he's somebody that you admire from what he does from that standpoint. And, you know, Purdue was the #1 team in the country for parts of this year, and for good reason.
Billy Witz with the New York Times. James, over the last couple of years, there's been quite a talent drain in the Ivy League, with most of them being grad transfers and some of the better players moving on because of I think in large part because of the Ivy League's rules about not allowing graduate students to play. Is there a compelling reason that, in your mind, that ought to be changed?
Okay, so this past year they did allow graduate students to participate in NCAA, and the compelling reason, Actually, I'm not sure what the compelling reason is. And I'll take it a step back from that. Everyone in the country is allowed to have red shirts. And that's the bigger issue, not so much graduate students that you can have red shirts. And the reason why we don't red shirt in the Ivy League is because that takes the position away from another worthy young man or woman to get into the university. So if you could red shirt, that's one less student that could come to that university that year. And then they would open it up for other students to take another opportunity out to red shirt, or take a gap year, so to speak, and clog up the university in terms of the number of students that are going to be admitted. All I know is that I have, a roster of 19 guys because of COVID, a number of guys that came back, and I got to play with the guys I have, and that's what I'm tasked with. Paul Atkinson played for Notre Dame last night, and he wasn't too bad. Okay? He didn't stink. So it wouldn't be bad if he was playing for us tonight, but he's not. So we have the guys in the locker room. I'm proud of them and to get us to this point, and I'm looking forward to see what we can do.
Is it helpful in a way that a guy like Paul, even though he's not playing for an Ivy League school, has a moment in a game like last night, and just that speaks to the quality of the play in your league?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy for Paul because I love him. He's a great kid. And when he was a freshman, he barely said 3 words to me. And by the time he was a junior, all he did was bust my chops every chance he got. So he's a great kid, comes from a great family. I'm happy for him and what he's been able to do with Notre Dame this year. And it speaks volumes. We've had a bunch of players that have been grad transferred. Makai Mason went down to Baylor, and he was all Big 12 selection. Jordan Bruner was a starting center for Alabama before he got hurt. So, yeah, we've had a lot of quality players. And anybody that knows anything about college basketball knows that. Maybe the average basketball fan doesn't, but that's okay, too.
Coach, for those of us who haven't seen your team play quite as much, can you break down Swain for us? Tell us what's made him so good for you.
All right. Well, he's just a tough nut. He is the best player in the entire country that can't dunk a basketball. Like you find somebody that's better than him that can't dunk a basketball, and I call you a lie. He's tremendous. Really tough kid, hard-nosed, is absolutely fearless, and he never met a shot he didn't like. And his shot selection has gotten better here over the last couple of games. That makes his coach happy, but he'll shoot from anywhere. He's fairly accurate in terms of doing that, and we're happy to have him. He's a great leader for our program, and he's done a tremendous job over the last 4 years at Yale, coming back, because he had to sit out of school to be able to come back and play, to get his 4th year, because he wanted to play 4 years at Yale, as well as Jalen Gabbidon and Jamil Alausa. So I'm proud of those guys for coming back and being able to get us to this point.
Going back to those speakers you had last year, I know Brad Stevens was one. Who were some of the other guys that y'all had speak to the team?
Steve Clifford from the Orlando Magic. We had Silas from the Houston Rockets, and we also had Altman from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we had a bunch of guys come on, and those are relationships that I had with guys to come on and speak to the young men in our program. We also had Isaiah Thomas speak to our guys. Isaiah was, I did also a stint with USA Basketball where we went to Puerto Rico and played in, some games down there, and Isaiah was good enough to come and talk to the guys about what it took for him to try to get back to the NBA. So there were a lot of different perspectives that my guys got a chance to see, and again, it was great for them to be able to have those conversations, and because they all, as young men, look up to being an NBA guy, those thoughts and dreams that we all had. Say again? Former Celtic Isaiah Thomas, yes.
Will McCormack, Yale Daily News. You've gone through this March Madness routine a few times now. Just curious to hear what this week has been like for you, and at what point the celebration on Sunday sort of shifted into focused prep for Purdue.
Well, it was one of those things in terms of a celebration. It was fast and furious. You're so focused on trying to win the game and do your best in the game, you don't really think about the celebration. It goes quickly. And what's great about the world now is that everything's on Instagram. So I got a chance to relive some of the moments of my players, and it's fun to see their joy and their happiness throughout what they achieved. In terms of shifting to Purdue, Sunday night, I started watching video. Obviously seen them on tape. I've seen them play live several times throughout the year because Jaden Ivey and Caleb and Matt Painter are, guys that I have relationships with. So you like to watch the teams of people that you know. So I've did a little bit of that, and we started building on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, and our final prep day Thursday, and we'll go out and see if we're ready.
Who are some of the the speakers that you might have had non-basketball that maybe the social justice issues or?
So we didn't have any other speakers for that outside of what we did as our university and our athletic director put together. But what we did a lot of TED Talks where we brought up different subjects on violence against transgender people, violence against Asians, violence against African Americans. So we started put those TED Talks out, had them view them, and then we had discussions and talking about where we are with them and how you feel and what our thoughts about things are. So we did a lot of things like that. Again, it was something that our staff put together to try to make sure that we had a grasp and understanding. I think the biggest problems that we have in our country is ignorance, that we don't understand each other. And the greater understanding you have, the easier it is for us to live together. So we just wanted to make sure that we touched a lot of different topics and had our guys look into a lot of different things and just to see how they felt, to make sure that we could all come together and be the best that we could.
And also, can you just describe the conversations that you had with Paul and just kind of his decision of, that ultimately led to him going to Notre Dame?
Well, so once the season was canceled and we were back in school, he knew he was going to have an extra year to go play. So we had a discussion about him going into the portal, and obviously a number of schools in the country, everybody from North Carolina to Duke to Florida, everybody in the country wanted to talk to him for the most part. He settled on a great academic environment for him because obviously he chose Yale because of what it was academically as well as what we are athletically. And in February, I believe it was, the rule changed for the Ivy League that would allow graduate students to come back and play. At that point, he had already committed to Notre Dame back in November. So he would have had to renege on his commitment to them, and then he would have had to pay for graduate school, which is around $75K. So he likes Coach Jones a lot, but he doesn't like Coach Jones that much. So he decided that he was going to stick with his commitment and go play at Notre Dame. And, we actually, in the preseason, there was like the bracketology, and it had Yale and Notre Dame in the same region. And he sent me a photo copy of a tour. He goes, wouldn't this be great if we could play against each other? And so we've had those discussions throughout the year. And like I said, he's a great kid, and I wish him nothing but the best.
J.R. Radcliffe from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I wonder if you can pinpoint a connective tissue between this team, your past teams, and the other Ivy League teams that just seem to always show up in the NCAA tournament. You got the Princeton, Harvard, even Colgate going back, a decade. It seems like either they win a game or they cause a lot of problems for the team that ultimately beats them. Yeah. What do you think connects those things?
Well, what connects our program is our core values of what we try to do on the court. We want to defend, we want to rebound, and we want to share the ball. And we don't always do all three of them at the highest level. And there may be some years that we do one a little bit more than the other and one a little bit less than we normally would like. This year, our defense has been really good, but our sharing of the ball in terms of our assists are not as great as they have been. So our connection is through our belief system and what we think is important in terms of how to play. Now, I will tell you, I told my staff that this is probably the best coaching job we've been able to do in terms of getting a team to the tournament, just because our talent level isn't at the same level as it had been with the past teams we had. Like, we had a pro, Mia Ioni, that was on our team the last time we came to the NCAA tournament, and had a guard by the name of Alex Copeland, who dropped 25 or 26 on LSU, right? So we had some guys. We do it a different way now, and it's mainly done through defensively to try to get stops and playing together that way. So that would probably be the connective tissue that we would have from one year to the next.
Anything else for Coach? Yes.
Just, you played a very competitive schedule this year, and you had some kind of one-sided losses to some really good teams early in the season.
Nice, well put.
Yeah. So, I guess, could you maybe describe just some of the areas that you feel like you've really gotten better at? I imagine some of that was maybe the rustiness, maybe not?
No. It had nothing to do with rust. It had everything to do with the fact that we had no post players. I started Jalen Gabbidon at the 4, and he's a 3-man from the year before, and I started Isaiah Kelly at the 5, and he was a 3-man. We had no scoring at the basket at all. E.J. Jarvis was hurt. Jamil Alausa was out. E.J.'s back now. Jamil is still injured. He can't play. But Matt Noling was a second-year player that obviously didn't have his freshman year because of COVID. We put him in the starting lineup along with Bez Mbang, and that kind of helped us change a little bit who we were. So that team that we were at the beginning of the year with those lopsided losses we've had, we're a little bit of a different team than we were then in terms of how we play and who we play. You know, every year after the season's over, I go back and I watch all the games that we played, right? Several, like this year, from 2 years ago, I probably watched every game like 4 times because I had nothing else to do. So I will go back and watch the games this year, and I'm going to watch tape, and I'm going to say to myself, why did I play this guy? Why did I play that guy? Because, again, we were trying to figure out who our best guys were as a building of the team. So sometimes that forms sooner than other years. This year it took a while because of the injuries that we had. So we're a different team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this group of guys can come out to do together.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
A reminder that a recording of this press conference will be available in the NCAA Digital Hub at ncaa.veritone.com. That's veritone.com. Transcripts will be available as soon as possible and will be posted shortly. Thank you. We'll be having the Virginia Tech student athletes next at 11:05.